So if certain designer blogs are saying Drift of Mist is a warm color, but then you have Sherwin-Williams putting it in their cool white color collection, what is it exactly? I've seen a lot of people asking me about the Sherwin-Williams paint color called Drift of Mist, color code SW9166. I've heard everything from, it's a gray, it's warm, it's kinda cool. So I wanna set the record straight and kind of break this color down in detail so you know exactly what you're getting should you decide to use it for your upcoming project. And what's better than one paint color? 4 paint colors to go alongside that color, which I have conveniently gathered to share with you today. Normally, I like to discuss these colors in the context of interior projects. So if you're painting the inside of your home, then a lot of this information will be extremely relevant to you. Not to say that Drift of Mist cannot be used outside, because it absolutely can, but I'm going to start with the important interior stuff first, and then later on I'll be sure to touch on exterior usage as well. So what is Drift of Mist? Well, as a color, a lot of people will agree that it's an off-white, but it's just over that off-white line for me. It's still an extremely light paint color, but if we go over to the Sherwin-Williams website, which is a great resource by the way, you can take a look at the color's all-important light reflectance value, or LRV. This will tell us exactly how light it is, and we can see that it's sitting at 69, which means from 0 to 100, it's reflecting 69% of the light that hits it. So it just makes it, like I said, on the lighter side of paint colors, but not really a true off-white for me under my definition, which is usually colors that hover in the mid-70s to low 80s range. So now that we know how light this color is, let's start to talk about what kind of color it is. So we hear the word neutral tossed around a lot in the paint color world, and although there's a very specific definition of neutral when it comes to interior design, the common use of the word is regarding those more muted, desaturated colors like gray, beige, or a combination of the two in grayish. You may think that Drift of Mist fits in the grayish category, and you would be correct, maybe, but I would argue that it pushes itself, just kind of nudges its way into greenish category, which is of course a made-up category that is unique to the Paint People channel. Subscribers, you know. This is because at its core, there is a combination of beige and gray happening, but there also is the slightest bit of green in the undertones, which has been causing quite a bit of confusion as to what this color actually is. You can even see the darker colors that Sherwin-Williams puts it next to on the website. There's definitely more saturated greens that are in that same family, which is not always a surefire method to figure out a color's tricky undertones, but in this case, it actually works. So if certain designer blogs are saying Drift of Mist is a warm color, but then you have Sherwin-Williams putting it in their cool white color collection, what is it exactly? Well, I think it all depends on how you define a color, and also what other colors are surrounding it. Take Drift of Mist and put it next to a golden yellow. It's going to seem pretty cool in comparison, but if you slap a deep blue next to it, it's gonna feel all warm and cozy. When you're looking at the color in a more objective fashion, next to a white background, to me I would call it a warm color that happens to have a cool undertone. Let me explain. We can all agree that beige is warm and green is cool. Some greens can have those warmer yellow undertones, but generally we classify green as being a cool color. And because there's going to be more visible beige in a color like Drift of Mist, that's what makes it feel more like an overall warm color, but it's not going to be nearly as warm as something like Irish cream, for example.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
It's all about perspective and context here. The good news is, because it has that warm and kind of cool dynamic, Drift of Mist becomes an extremely versatile paint color that can really suit both traditional and transitional design styles. You can use it in coastal palettes, modern farmhouse, any of those popular design styles will really like this color. And like any ambiguous neutral paint color, it's very susceptible to color shift based on different lighting. So a north-facing room with Drift of Mist will look much more gray compared to a south-facing one. Now, if you've tested it out and you really enjoy how this color looks in your space, then this is an easy main color that you can use on the majority of the walls in your home. I would even say that it works well as a lighter main color for the exterior of your house as well. See, I told you I'd talk about the outside of your home. So if you're thinking of painting your vinyl siding, for example, this is a great choice. But for a little more context on exterior usage, Drift of Mist will show even more of its green undertone because of that cool blue light that the bright sun emits. It still looks lovely, but don't go in expecting to see a nice creamy beige color because the beige aspect of it is usually more prominent when you use it inside, not outside. Let's talk color pairings. The first one is going to be the light one, aka a light color that I like alongside Drift of Mist. Now, even though I'm a green fan, especially as an undertone in my neutral colors, I really do like the warm beige aspect of Drift of Mist, which is why I selected a color that enhances that aspect. It's called Rhinestone, and it has an LRV of 74, making it 5 points lighter. It's interesting because I would say it looks even lighter in person, just because of how delicate of a color it is. There are no heavy-handed colors that are coming through, and it ends up being an extremely subtle, airy, cool gray that is light enough to feel much more like an off-white. It has enough color in it so that any bright white woodworking or cabinetry, a fireplace mantle or furniture will still feel really nice and clean next to it. I will call this light color pairing a teensy bit complementary because you do have a color that leans warmer and one that leans cooler, but the undertones of each color are actually pretty similar or adjacent with green and blue. That's why even if you use these two colors in the same space, it won't feel too jarring, but they're also not going to blend into one another either. Our Midtone Colour is complementary for a different reason, where the base is similar, but the undertones are actually quite different. Restoration is a 38 LRV dark mid-tone taupe. I can't get enough of taupe. Honestly, I love it. It's one of my favorite classifications of colors, especially when it comes to neutrals. And that's because of its grounded combination of gray and brown. And what makes this an interesting choice for Drift of Mist is the fact that it almost has a red undertone to it, which can give it that subtle opposition with Drift of Mist's green undertone. At the core, there's still warmer neutrals where one is a little more based in beige while the other is substantiated by quite a bit of brown, but it's really fun to incorporate these two together and see their interaction. I feel like Restoration really unlocks the greenage aspect of Drift of Mist, and anytime I can accentuate greenage, I'm doing it. I love me some greeny, beigey gray colors, y'all. Our dark color pairing is meant to mellow out the green in our subject by introducing a lot more of it. It's called Studio Blue Green, and I just love this timeless shade of muted teal that's pretty dark. I do think that there is more green than blue present within it, but what you also have is that dark gray to tone everything down a little bit, giving you a lovely shade. This is an accent color that only has a 20 LRV, so you could theoretically go for an even darker accent color, but I'm sticking Studio Blue Green in here, which opens up even more opportunities to have more fun with your space because you're not going with a 5 LRV off black. This one is a little bit lighter than what you would think for dark accent colors. You can use it perhaps all over an office or a dining room or even on the outside of your home. I feel that really good lighting just unlocks this color's character, and that's because it doesn't feel quite as heavy as colors that are quite a bit darker. Extra white is the white paint color that I would select in this case for all those other colors, because it's one of the brighter whites by Sherwin-Williams, and even though it doesn't feel cold and unlikable, it also does not have a ton of creamy warmth, which could clash a bit with some of the cooler colors we talked about. You could also use this white paint color on your trim for a different alternative. Click here if you like options.